How you doing, Omar? Good to be
I'm
here,
great,
baby.
brother.
Thank you.
Thrilled that you're here.
All right. Got me with
All
some pretty
right.
distinguished, and I'm in distinguished company, so it's a pleasure to be here with all you guys.
All right. Well, we're all thrilled to be here. Guys, thank you so much. I want to try and move us into our program now, and I would like to make sure that everybody that is tuned in, that you please hit us in the chat box, because we really want to hear from you. It's very important that we are able to identify what you're feeling and how you're feeling about these things. But I want to share with you first, what is the Anti-Violence Ventures Project? Anti-Violence Ventures, Black men and boys take a lead. It is an innovative anti-violence social interventions modeling being prototyped by a teen project funded by Blue Shield of California Foundation. The project was developed in late 2018, and we are now in the second phase of the pilot project, working with Black male-owned businesses, organizations, and agencies to support all aspects of partner, family, and community. Let's take a look at the video.
Start by allowing the panelists to introduce themselves, their organization, and some of the work they do.
We wonder the ways in which Black men can be, should be, and would be willing to engage in conversations about violence prevention and domestic violence, family violence, and community violence as we see them as intersecting.
My partner or teammate, Rain, and I initially started to talk about how do we bring about conversations where Black men will come together to talk about violence. And we explored a number of different avenues. So we're targeting entrepreneurs, we're targeting organizations, agencies, we're targeting some individuals, but mostly people for whom conversations about violence don't take place as a part of their regular course of work or their regular experiences for what they're doing. So how do we engage those people in conversations, which really means we're expanding the community's voice.
Men should be talking about it among themselves. Men and women should be talking about it without finger pointing. We should recognize the historical influences on us. We should begin thinking about what can we do if our society doesn't change at all. I mean, that's the kind of work I'm also very much interested in. Because you're like, systems change, we need systems change. If the system doesn't budge an inch, what can we do to address the challenges that we have in our families and in our community? Just coming together to have a conversation about a thing or being engaged in conversation about a thing, no, does not ultimately get you to deal with that thing. However, dealing with it, I think almost certainly does not come without having some type of conversation about what it is, where it comes from, what impact it's having, and what solutions can be developed to address it. The people who are most impacted by an experience are the ones best suited to address it and to even potentially correct it. Anti-Violence Ventures, it's a test, it's an experiment. It opens up the possibilities of conversations that need to happen in places where it's not happening at all. And that is all that we are doing.
Visuals, so please stay with us. But we're going to continue to plow right on through. What I would like to do is to take this time to pose to our panelists. Anybody that would like to jump in on this, can you give me a couple of definitions? Because, violence is obviously comes in many different ways. So I'd like to pose the question to a couple of the panelists to maybe describe how you see in very short terms what you see as violence. Who would like to take the first one? You'll have to say your name because I don't have you're up on the camera right now. I don't have your picture. Who's speaking?
Reginald T. Over.
Okay. Go ahead now, Reginald.
Yeah, I just think that we need to respect each other more, you know, and have a lot more patience with each other. That's usually how things go left, is that we don't communicate enough and allow each other a little leniency. So, you know, I think that we could be more patient with one another and really focus on the compassionate part about, you know, what we've been through as a struggle and what we continue to go through today.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to, you know, jump in on a definition of how you see violence? Because Reginald, that was very, very, very astute. Thank you, brother. Anybody else? Anybody?
Yeah, Randy, I'll take a shot at it.
Ryan?
I think violence is anything that, whether it's physical.
Okay, I got Randy on the screen. You want to identify a little something, brother?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen.
I was listening to Brian.
I think violence is anything that, whether it be physical or mental, that causes some type of pain. Sometimes, you know, with mental or verbal violence, we say things with no clear thought of how it's impacting the person that we're saying it to. Sometimes I think we get in our own feelings about certain situations, certain topics, and we just say what we feel regardless of what the other person may be feeling or how they may perceive it. We all know what physical violence is, but I think today the mental violence and verbal violence is more prevalent than anything.
Yes, sir. Well stated. Well stated. Beautifully stated. All right. Let me ask this to also our panel and special guest. Has violence impacted your life in any way in particular? And if so, and you feel comfortable, would you share how?
I'm done to
State
speak on
who
that.
speaks so that we can make sure we can put you on state who's speaking so we can put you on.
Randy's up here. I'm down to speak to that.
Okay, Randy.
Violence has definitely played a part in my life pretty profoundly over the course of my life. Growing up, being born and raised in Compton, you know, I've lost many friends to gang violence. I've had friends, you know, who dealt with domestic violence on both men and women, and it's definitely it's definitely a very harmful thing to both the people that go through that and to the community. And to me personally, you know, I do feel often that it has traumatized me. Like the violence that I've experienced or seen or been around in my life has created some traumas within me that now as an adult I'm trying to address. And so it definitely plays a very heavy part in like how I'm operating or thinking about things every day. For example, like even just as simple as, you know, I work a lot of late nights and I spend a lot long nights in the studio or like on a film set or anything. And I still live in Compton. You know, my ranch is still here. My family's still here. So just little things like when I'm coming home late, just that overarching feeling of like, because something happened to me right now. You know, I deal with that every single day of my life. And it's something I can't even get rid of or shake. So I definitely feel that kind of just dealing with that violence over the course of my life has definitely traumatized me. And I know that experience is prevalent amongst many of us, that especially us coming from the inner city and just being Black men in general. We definitely have that overarching, it's always like a shadow lurking over you of something that could potentially happen to you that's violent, that, you know, that we're dealing with. So it's very real.
Very real. Very real. Thank you so much, man, for being so forthcoming. And anybody else want to speak on it?
Well,
Who's
Glenn
speaking?
Here. Glenn here.
Okay, Glenn. So let's pull Glenn up.
What I what I'm want to say is that the violence in our communities, in the Black community, is a vicious cycle of violence. It's almost like it's passed on from generation to generation. In many ways, it's in the way like Brian was saying, verbally we're very abusive, and we have been that way for a long time. And we kind of have to understand the systemic nature of that kind of violence and what we're able to accept as a form of abuse, from even slavery, you know, the way that we were talked about or spoken to by the slave master, and passing that kind of indignity down. We accept that as we start calling ourselves those same names and passing those names on, and that kind of verbal abuse, as well as the physical abuse. And it just goes on and on and on from generation to generation. You see, you know, if your parent is not in the home, or if it's not in your home, but you go to your friend's house and you see the violence being done to your friend's mother by his father, and he comes to you and passes that on to you, and you then go and you pass it on to whoever you're in a relationship with. There's just a sort of like a torch passing mentality in terms of violence, and it's prevalent and goes around and around and around and around. And to break that vicious cycle has to be a very conscious effort.
Thank you so much, GT. That's beautifully stated, and I think that everybody would agree with that. I want to pitch this a little bit, because all men here today, and I think sometimes that the light is always, or more often than not, put on men who perpetrate violence. Now, as us men talking today, what do you think, or maybe why is it better to me to say, why do you think that is more the perceived aspect of who is the perpetrator of violence? So any one of our panelists want to take that as two? Is you think that we as men are more identified as the perpetrators of violence, when very often we are the recipients of that violence?
I'll make an attempt to make a stab at it.
All right, this is Pick.
Yeah, it's Jim Pickens. I'll piggyback on what Brian made mention of, and also what Lynn made mention of. I think a lot of it goes back to a lot of self-hatred. We can go on, and that's a whole nother separate discussion about where that self-hatred comes from. But I think it actually starts in here, which is probably the most harmful, is the emotional damage that violence does. Like you say, we see it as generational, it's cultural. Or you in a house where there's domestic violence, and you know, there's a saying: when you live with dysfunction so long, you don't think of it as dysfunction. But the emotional violence starts here first, and then it manifests itself physical violence, because that's the most tangible. Instinctual. We're men, and as men, instilled in us as a warrior mentality, and that hasn't been subjugated yet. It's just part of our makeup. It's part of our DNA, and it's been compounded by the fact of Black men being in this country for 400 years, and what that has led to. I think the solutions are really far-reaching. I think we have to deal with the hurt that we have, and that hurt that translates itself into emotional violence and then manifests itself into physical violence is a discussion that needs to be ongoing. I think once we can look at ourselves honestly and have some hard discussions and how we deal with conflict resolution, where it's not always about this here, but it's about talking and communicating, as Reggie said, and understanding that it's okay to disagree and to have a point of view. But at the end of the day, we have to really try and exercise the self-hatred that's been such a part of our existence here, especially in America. I think a lot of the young brothers, I think especially what Randy is doing with the Compton Cowboys, and there's other groups and other organizations who are looking to take that and address that in a really, really hard discussion in a way that we can digest it and understand that if we are to continue if Black men are to exist in a way that we can move forward as a culture, we have to address the self-hurt, the self-hatred that translate into hatred for one another, and we don't even know why. It permeates everything that we do in the course of the day. We always have to look at ourselves and keep saying we have to recognize the better part of ourselves when it's easier to recognize the part that is the savage. And once we understand that and have these kind of discussions, I want to thank all the panel here and Margot and Bill Pickett for trying to get this together. This is where it starts, is having this kind of dialogue and listening to the younger generation, listening to us brothers who got a little knowledge and a little wisdom, hopefully, and some experience, and taking those things and putting them in this kind of centrifuge and putting it together and coming up with a solution where we can say we can move forward than that, and we're better than that as men, and we know we are, and we know we can do better than that.
One of the things that I've identified that's really important is that men don't often get a chance to do this, to be able to sit with one another and speak freely without reservation of being judged. Because we know each of us know what we individually go through and have experienced. And so that's what today is about. And I want to remind those that are watching, please, we need to hear from you. We want to hear your point of view, your perspective. If you have a question for any one of the panel members, that's why we've shown up. This is here for an honest, open discussion about something that is truly a major issue in our lives, no matter where we live in our community, because of how we function and the history, I believe, as both Glenn and Jim have spoken to. And we are here to talk about it, and also to possibly come up with some ideas of, as Jim said, how we can see ourselves as better than that and thusly do better than that. Okay? All right. So please hit that chat box. Those that are viewing, if you've got a question for us or a comment, I'm looking forward to hearing from you, because this is really about engaging the community and not just us sitting here talking to each other. All right. I don't want to move on until I've gotten a chance to see if anybody else would like to speak on that last subject matter, which is the fact of, as men, how you may have been the victim of an accusation of violence. And as Randy spoke to, and as Brian spoke to, that there's all kinds. If it's systemic, if it's emotional, if it's physical, how have you been impacted by violence, or as a result? Anybody else want to say before we move on to our next segment? Okay.
I got a question. Over?
Yes.
I have a question from Tootie Woods.
Okay.
I want to know how generational habits of violence have a great impact on emotional and physical verbal abuse.
Okay, Tootie, and where's Tootie calling in from?
Tootie is in San Diego.
In San Diego. And Tootie, we have a question for our panel. Could you read it to me one more time?
General habits of violence.
General habits of violence
have great impact.
Have great impact on emotional
and physical and verbal abuse.
And physical and verbal abuse.
Talking about
Talking about the
generational habits.
generational habits. And so the question is posed to discuss it, or does he have a specific question?
I want to know how it affects and how it plays with respect to generational habits.
Okay. I think that both Glenn and Vic may have addressed that, where you talked about the generational aspect of how this has continued to reoccur in us. And the question is a great question and deserves a great answer. So we've already touched on it because the question probably came in before the both guys answered. But why doesn't somebody else just weigh in a little bit so we can get to Judy? And Judy, thank you so much for reaching in and letting us know you're there. We really appreciate it. Anybody else want to touch on the fact that of how it's generational, how it's come about, maybe the origins of it, and then how we can do better? Reginald, you want to take some of that?
Sure. We're dealing with post-traumatic slave disorder, Oba. And mental illness in the African-American community is very prevalent. And we don't address that in the terms that we need to. When I think about cultures that want to continue to inspire one another, that's not what we're doing oftentimes in African-American communities, especially with our music. It's something that we continue to degrade one another with a lot of the rap music and the violence that we speak of in the music. I don't know any other culture that does that but us. And so that's why I'm saying we're dealing with some heavy mental issues that, in my words, I'm saying are post-traumatic slave disorder. So that has to be addressed. It has to be dealt with. And when we have opportunities to reach out to young brothers and try to enlighten them and impart some wisdom upon them, we got to give them the real stuff, as far as who they are and what they've come from. No other people could have survived what we went through for 400 years of slavery. And now to have gone beyond that, and this is the payoff that we have at the end of it, that we're going to degrade one another. No, we can do better and we can be better.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, this is an interesting topic, because at the end of the day, we have to look at and encompass all that goes into how things evolve. They don't evolve out of a vacuum, right? So before we move on to our next question, I wanted to we got one more person who wants to speak. Oh, Brian wants to speak on that. Okay, Brian, go ahead, jump on that. Come on in, and I'll get to mine.
In my dealing with young people, one thing I found is a lot of times, especially in the Black community, we have that walk it off mentality, especially when it comes to mental health issues. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be a man. You don't have any problems. Walk it off, figure it out. And I've even had to catch myself when dealing with kids, and understand that even though I am mentally strong and I can deal with things fairly easily, I'm a solution finder. I don't think I have any problems. I just have to find a solution for whatever I'm going through. Everybody isn't built like that. So I always have to tell myself, I'm not this person, so I can't automatically expect them to be able to cope, because they don't have the coping skills that I have. They've not been through some of the things I've been through to develop those skills. So we have to understand that we need to do more soft talk and say, hey, if you got a problem, tell me what the problem is, instead of saying, man, suck it up, bow up, be a man, walk it off, yada, yada, yada. Because that's not getting us anywhere. It's okay to have an issue, and it's okay to not have the answer. But we need to be there for each other to help each other find those answers. And I don't think we do enough of that in our community.
Okay. Excellent. See, we're
Hello,
getting
Randy
perspective
Harris
now. And that's what's important, to get perspective.
Hello.
I have another question that came in. from Darlene Green. She wants to know, why is it that society tends to view men weak if they report domestic violence? So she's acknowledging domestic violence is also perpetrated on men. And why do you think it is that the men or the society views those men who report domestic violence perpetrated against them as weak? Who would like to take that?
I think it goes back to the emasculating of men, the psychological castration, if that, for lack of a better term. We're supposed to be providers. We're supposed to be fighters. We go out and kill it, and she's supposed to grill it. I think that for men to have to report that he's being abused, kind of cuts into his core, and that's the thing that keeps this stuff going on. Instead of being bold enough to say this is going on and I'd like it to stop, we're often left in situations where it continues and it gets worse, and sometimes to the point where when the man does react, it's in a way that's twice as violent as what he was going through himself, and that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that one too. This is a very interesting. This is Randy speaking. It's a very interesting topic. I think because the whole idea of the man being the protector, it kind of seems counterintuitive to our own interests, or it seems like it doesn't make sense for us to then report domestic violence and potentially get our partner in trouble, in deeper trouble or hurt, which kind of goes against our whole idea as men, as we're supposed to be the protectors of our family. So we're faced with a very interesting dynamic when it comes to that, because on the one hand, you want to support your partner, your and your family, and protect everybody. So if your partner's abusing you, to have to call to report them and potentially get them in jail or get them in some kind of a problem, presents a problem for us. It's like, man, I'm supposed to be the protector, but here I am reporting my partner, and then that's going to potentially get them in harm's way. So we have to find a way to process that. And I don't really know what that answer is, but I think it's definitely an interesting conversation that we definitely got to figure out how to address.
Yes, sir. Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. Beautifully stated. It's so interesting what I started to say earlier, that and as some of the other brothers have alluded to, that because of our past history, many of the things that we do have become generational. In other words, that Jim said it probably best when he said, some of the things that you do, if they're familiar, even if it's not good for you, it becomes comfortable. It becomes somehow maybe attached to the culture. It somehow becomes something that is cool, or that's what you have to do. Randy just talked on that, about the fact of being someone who is the breadwinner, the protector. And then how does that affect one? So we have to take into consideration that today, as we're discussing these things, it's not just an easy cut and dry thing, but the important thing is that we're talking about it, that we have come together today to talk about these things and give ourselves an opportunity to have an open and honest discussion, and to hear the minds of these individuals who have lived life, who have lived it in their skin and in their masculinity. So we're going to take a little time right now to do a first giveaway. My co-host, because we got a couple of people that have joined us, and we said we were going to be doing drawings for giveaways. So I'm going to take a moment to do that, and then I'm going to move right into section 2. All right. Yes, we got any giveaways to give somebody something?
Yes, we do, over. We have a Yeti brand.
Yeti brand.
$50 Visa gift certificate and an ABB t-shirt going to Charlemagne Jefferson.
All right, Charlemagne, first person to receive something.
On behalf of Ariat, we have a $100 gift certificate for boots or shirt is going to Aaron Baxter.
Okay, Aaron, congratulations.
And we have a $100 grooming products going to Alvin Jameson.
All right, got some grooming products.
And the last is a $100 grooming products going to Evelyn Tolliver.
All right, Evelyn, congratulations. And we thank you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. And if you think what we're talking about is important and somebody's not on, hit them up and tell them to join us, because we want to hear from the community as well. We want to make sure that we're having an open discussion and hearing all the viewpoints and opinions. All right, I'm going to put on next video, and then I'm going to come to my brother whose video it is. So Essence, if you would be kind enough, would you roll that music video clip?
Red light, blue light, yellow tape, black face, white chalk on the ground. Sometime I wish I was colorblind, cause that shit bring me down. Knew a couple soldiers that went on some missions, lost and ain't been found. Damn. We blessed the bottle, then pass it around. I'm so tired of that. I wonder will it ever change? Been praying all my life for better days. Too many vacations, mama's pillows looking like they been out in the rain. The niggas still gang banging, nah, I can't blame them. Tell me what you'll do if that was the only family you ever knew. Red or blue, you gon' die for them cause they done die for you, that's the truth. Eulogies to prove it. Niggas ain't stupid, niggas know exactly what we doing. But tell me what the fuck we supposed to do with these shitty ass cars that we dealt. We drowning, we need help. And you know niggas can't swim, we ain't no Michael Phelps. Pray for myself, I'm lacking in mental health. Not to mention where's the wealth round here. We gon' stealth round here. For them blue slave masters, we gon' slave round here. Ain't no house nigga shit, we in the field on the bitch for real. Red light, blue light, yellow tape, black face, white chalk on the ground. Sometime I wish I was colorblind, cause that shit bring me down. Knew a couple soldiers that went on some missions, lost and ain't been found. Yeah. We blessed the bottle, then pass it around. I'm so tired of that. Same shit, a different day, another rest in peace shirt, another homie in the ground.
All right. Welcome back to our segment 2. We now listen. Don't forget, we want questions to put it in that chat box so that we can hear from you and we can discuss what's going on. All right. Listen, that clip is from the work of Randy Savage, one of the Compton Cowboys. So Randy, I'm going to lead off this segment with you to talk about the inspiration for that video, because you're in the mix of dealing with our brothers and sisters in the community on this level, and I know you have great insight. So please, Randy, would you speak on what first was the inspiration for that video?
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm so happy to have everybody watching that and be able to talk about this. Is very important to me. The song "Colorblind" it just came about because a good friend of mine, you know, her boyfriend was killed randomly just going to the store. He was due to gang violence, and I was talking to her, and it was hurting me so bad just listening to her, and it got me thinking about all my own experiences and situations that come with that I've been through on my own. And I just wanted to, as a musician, I wanted to say something that speaks to us, speaks to the homies in the streets, that addresses like, what are we doing with each other? Why do we find this odd sense of like honor by dying in the streets to people that look like us? You know what I'm saying? And like,
yes.
When are we gonna I heard Pick say it earlier, Glenn said it earlier too, about like it's generational that we passing it down. Like in my song, I say there's a line in there as well, but it's just about, I'm tired of seeing us all young black men kill each other over over colors. I'm tired of police killing us. It's enough killing going on. Like, when are we gonna see amongst each other that there's a better path forward? And I very specifically wanted to articulate that as a young man from the streets. I didn't want to be coming from the other side, preachy and polished and just being more so trying to look down upon or condescend the homies in the streets. Like I wanted to talk to them on their level. So the language that I use, every word is very specific. The vulgarity, the profanity, all of that is because at the end of the day, these kids growing up in the neighborhood, they look up to rappers more than they do to pastors, and that's facts. You know what I'm saying? They look up to entertainers more than they do to their teachers. You know, so for me, it's important to use my platform, my message to speak in a way that resonates with them, but also is able to provide a commentary on our social lifestyle and what we're going through. So that's where that song came from, and I did a video. If anybody gets a chance to watch the whole video, it's very much a commentary on the hood, a commentary on the United States of America, a commentary on politics and just the streets. So so I appreciate the opportunity to be here to be able to express that and articulate how that conversation.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well stated, my brother. And it's a powerful message in the song. And this is what I was referring to and referencing, that there are all generations which are represented here. You look at our panel, we're very intended in making sure that someone from each generation and experience was represented here. So thank you so much for being that for us in this program today. Listen, I would like to hear if anybody out there is tuning in and wants to have a comment and a thought about the video and about what Randy just talked about what it is that, you know, the people in the community, in the hood are going through on a daily basis and how they're reacting to it. And, you know, exactly how that music speaks to them and the power of artistry. Because he said, we're looking up to rappers more than they do pastors. And what is that good or is that not good? But it's not here to judge. I want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you're feeling, what you're thinking about that kind of music and the experience that we're going through. All right, I have another question that somebody just tuned in. Darlene, oh, it's Darlene again. Thank you, Darlene. How do communities teach young people to have healthy relationships? Okay, Randy and Brian, can you, Brian, you know, in your specific field, would you address that? How do communities teach young people to have healthy relationships? An idea, because you talked about the fact that you look for solutions. So let's hear about some of those solutions, my brother.
Well, one thing I've learned in dealing with horses and especially young men is if you don't give them something to do, they're going to give you something to do. And whatever they give you to do is not going to be near as fun as what you could have had them do. I think we've gotten away from holding young men accountable. I think we're in a space where a lot of people are don't talk to my kid, don't tell my kid, don't correct my kid, and it's taken some of the power of the community to help produce good men. When I was a kid, in the the 70s, a lot of my grandfather's friends were, in his age group were still around. Mr. Mathis, Mr. Minor, Mr. Miller, and all these World War II and Korean War veterans, and they were still holding young men accountable. If I did something wrong, it was nothing for an adult in my neighborhood to tell me I was wrong. They might not have necessarily physically corrected me, but there was no problem with them saying, young man, you're wrong, and you're better than that. At least, I believe you're better than that, and turn you to the right path. Nowadays, if you correct somebody's kid, it's you don't talk to my son that way, and that's a problem. And I'm not saying you have to berate somebody, but at least be able to tell a young person, hey, this is not the right way to do this. There's a different way, and let me show you a different route. I had a case where I had a young man in a facility I worked in whose mother would bring him freshly pressed clothes from the cleaners to wear. And this is an inpatient situation. And I'm like, ma'am, if he goes anywhere, it's going to be outside with me to get dirty. That starch ain't going to help him here. Those fresh pressed shirts ain't going to help him here because he's going to sweat. And instead of, trying to save your child from someone correcting them, whether it be me, my neighbor, or someone who generally has a want the best for them. Instead of blocking them from that, it could be a blessing. You never know who's how your blessing is gonna come. Instead of blocking them from that, sometimes you need to let that happen. Let somebody beyond you say to your child, "You're doing wrong," because that shows that the community itself cares about them, not just those people that they live with.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, listen, Denard.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman in his 20s. I want to get a perspective from you, if you will, about the subject matter we're talking about. What you deal with and what your community and what your age group is dealing with every day, and how you feel in reference to the question that was posed, that the community could help those people in the community to be better in terms of the way they relate to one another.
Well, that's a perfect question. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of Brian a little bit. And I apologize, I can't remember everyone's name, but the other young man that did the video, I'm even gonna elaborate on what he did. I believe personally, this is what I'm doing. It's you gotta have your own platform. I believe my platform is horses. And just like the other young man, his platform at the time was his video. And I believe as you do what you do, it will create a platform to help young people. Me personally, my platform is horses. I have horses. I don't have to put a sign up saying that young people come and do what you, and I teach you about horses. It's been action. They see me, they see some of my success, and they want it. A lot of these young people are looking for something. And I believe as we give them those options, then it'll open the door. Because me personally, I'm a man of faith, and a lot of young men, they come out and they ride my horses, and it start off with just horses, but before you know it, the question comes, how do I become better? And I always give them different little nuggets that I have throughout life. I believe I told a young man the other day, I said, one of the things that's really helped me is I begin to do research on, it's a particular man by the name of Dr. Miles Monroe. And his one of his quotes is, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. So you got to ask yourself as a young person, what is the purpose behind everything I do? And as you apply that to your life, it will free you from so much turmoil. And a lot of things that these young people are doing are, I believe, are coming from a lack of knowledge and wisdom and guidance. And I believe with this platform as a whole, as we begin to just do our part by opening the door to these young people, far as in, like you said, giving them wisdom, giving them another voice, giving them someone to come to, giving them the as a man, I have accountability partners. I have people I go to for my counsel and my wisdom. I don't think it's we got to let the young people know it's okay to have issues. You can talk to people about them. We have made that so demasculating, where it's not cool to seek out help from other men. But now, as a generation, we got to be able to speak up for those who might need help mentally. It's okay. So that's kind of my platform on that. I hope I answered that question.
Yes, you did, and you did it beautifully. You did it beautifully.
Hold on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Glenn Turman.
I'd like to piggyback off of that, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Yes, this gentleman just mentioned a key word in his journey. he realized the importance of options. Now, most of you, like yourself, Oba, Jim, Reginald T, Margot, who's on the other end of the tech thing, know that we do Camp Giddy Up. And we developed Camp Giddy Up as an outdoor summer camp, a Western themed outdoor summer camp to help kids change their environment and to help kids learn something other than the city life, to get them out to the country and ride horses, learn roping, roping skills and the cowboy way of life, they sleep out under the stars and so on and so forth. And the thing is that we try to instill in them that there are other options, that they open their eyes to other ways to go, other things to do, the opportunity. One of the things I try to make clear too right away, my wife and I, Joanne, and our family, is that, hey, this is not a park that you're in. This is my home that you're in. This is my family working in this home to try our best and have the honor of trying to make you comfortable in this situation. But the thing I want you to take away from this is that you too can have this. You too can shoot for this. You too, this is available to you to achieve, and while you're here, take advantage of us. So we have to make it ourselves accessible to those who come for that knowledge, for that opportunity. And some come kicking and screaming, not everybody comes, with, give me the answer, or we're here to help you, no, some kids, saying, screw you, we're going to do it this way, and your way is for the birds, but that's the risk you take, and that's what you have to put on the line. You have to put, something on the line in order to be part of a community that's looking for answers.
Yes.
And so I like what he said about the options, with was it Randy? No, who was that just said that?
That was, Denard.
Denard just said that. And so that you find that years later, and we've been doing this since 1992, that's how long Camp Giddy Up has been going on. I'm sure maybe some of your listeners have even attended our camp. If you have attended our camp, hey, welcome you to Giddy Up, But but since '92, we've been trying to do something, not just talk about it, do something.
Yes.
Get involved and do something. We owe our young people to do something. And I want to thank Jim and Reggie and you yourself for all the support you've lent us over the years. Thank you.
Well, listen, Glenn, thank you so much. And let me just say to our listening audience, and Glenn, you didn't just try, you have done it. You opened your home, your heart, your wallet, and you made sure that people did have somewhere. These young people had somewhere to go to experience a different aspect of life. And so you also talked about, both Randy and Denard used the word accountability. Randy, Brian, Denard, you all talked about accountability. And that's so valuably important, because in each of you own individual ways, you've been accountable and you've stepped up. So we thank you and thank you and thank you. Now, listen, this is the next question. This is an interesting one, and I think it's fascinating. There is a myth. There is a myth that domestic violence in the community is considered a curse that has been put on the community of Blacks. Who wants to take that? What do you think about that?
Well, it's just Randy.
Oba.
No, I don't know who's calling. Somebody's calling for Oba. I could take a jump at that one.
That was Randy Harris.
Okay.
Hello? You guys can hear me? Well, you know, it's just domestic violence is just remnants of everything we went through with slavery. All it is just, you know, it's behaviors, thoughts, processes, emotions and perspectives that we learned through slavery. It's just been passed down to us. You know what I'm saying? So really, it's not a lot of what's going on. If we, and that's one of my biggest things that I want to address is like raising our awareness around about what's going on in these environments. Like, you know, a lot of what we see, domestic violence and all that stuff going on in the home, it's not just by choice. We don't even recognize that we're passing down, you know, habits, behaviors, and stuff that was taught to us and intentionally taught to us to keep us divided and to keep us fighting, so that way we could kill and hurt ourselves, so they wouldn't have to do it, you know, to us. So it's definitely, if you want to use that term, you know, in that sense, in that metaphor of a curse, that's precisely what it was, and that's what it's up to us. We have that duty to break that curse, and it starts with raising awareness. You know, before you get mad and do something crazy, think about why am I getting mad about this, and why am I about to do this, and what is this going to do for me? You know what I'm saying? And then try to go the opposite way.
Yes. Jim Pickens.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Jim. I think you're muted.
Okay, how's that now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. That's better.
I think Randy brought a really good point that it's domestic violence in the Black community is something that's been prevalent for a long time. But let's face it, the dominant culture perpetrates as much domestic violence as anyone else, maybe even more than we do. It's just that ours was reported more because we're so insular as a community. But I think it's a learned behavior. You see it as a child. And so when you grow up, you think that's the only way you can communicate. And once again, it goes back to communication skills. We have to learn that there is another way to get your point across, other than some physical violence, or even worse, emotional violence. I think that's probably even more devastating than the physical violence in a domestic situation, and the residue of what it leaves for the partner, whether it's the man, woman, the children, and then it radiates within the community. So I think at the end of the day, it's about learning how to communicate, learning what the roles are in a relationship, learning how to respect one another. And that once again goes back to respecting ourselves. And that's what I think the conversation has to really start, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's violence Black on Black, whether it's violence to one another or somebody else. We have to have the discussion about how we see ourselves. And I think that's where it starts.
All right. Thank you so much. Listen, so I think, let me just, okay, wait. Denard, jumping in. Come on, Denard.
Yeah, I had to jump in because
yes, sir.
You brought up the word generational. And I believe when it comes to things of generation, first and foremost, we got to recognize what it is. And me personally, I don't come from a background of violence, but my father, he had his first child when he was in high school. And I had my first child when I was in high school. But I recognized that generational curse. And now my son has graduated high school. He's on a full scholarship, and he did not have a child when he graduated. So that was my way of breaking that generational. First and foremost, we got to recognize what the generational character is. If it's violence, or I have a generational from, a lot of people have incarcerations in their family. So we got to recognize, or we got to let the people recognize what that is and begin to start there. And I believe that's where we can create that change, especially when it comes to those generational things.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I know Howard Johnson, he's got something to say. Hojo, you want to come on in?
Yes. I think I'd like to piggyback off of what Denard said about being able to recognize what the problems and the situations are. And I think what we need collectively, we all need therapy. And what I mean by therapy is early on, we looked to the church for inspiration, guidance, and direction. And it seems that our churches have been lacking in that sense. And maybe that's because of the media, the social media that exists now. There are so many things that are put before what that is. And then also we had the Martin Luther Kings, we had the Malcolm X's, we had the Marcus Garveys. And, you know, we all want some sort of direction about where we're going and where we should go or whatever. And those things have been taken away, literally taken away. So we need therapy in that sense as a whole to be able to have a direction that we need to go in. And that's a very difficult thing to do, but it all starts with us, as they spoke of in the Bible, that sometimes, you know, you have to study yourself to seek and find what those answers are. And then within that, we have to depend on our relatives. We have to depend on that village that has been broken up. So it's a difficult task that we have in front of us. And also, you know, I want to thank you guys for having this panel, because it starts with us. You know, there's that saying of where there's a will, there's a way. I don't believe in that. I believe in where there's an I will, there's a way. So it starts with us.
Very good. Thank you so much, Joe. Yes, listen.
This is
Weepers, we haven't
Albert
heard from you
Harris
in a while.
here.
Weepers, come on in and weigh in, brother.
Man, I've been listening, and I should have been part of the audience instead of a panel, because I've learned a lot by listening to these brilliant men that's on the panel. As a parent, I have 3 boys and 3 young men now and a daughter. So far as I think as my household, you know, a lot of times I want my young men to grow up and be responsible and be a man in my timing. And I think I want to give up on them or push them on out of the way when I should be thinking about continue doing what I can do for my kids and wait on God's timing, because we're not writing this story. You know, this is God's story. So I think if we just continue doing what we can do for our kids, first start at your own house, do what we can for our kids, and then go to our communities. Another thing, Mr. Randy, I think Mr. Randy is a key solution to this thing, because social media, as Howard was talking about, social media is bigger than anything right now. By Randy being on social media, rapping, and like Reginald was talking about, you know, rap is more of cussing and bad mouthing, you know, our own people, when we should be putting out positive things, you know. So, and I think social media is the key. And by Randy being on social media all the time, you know, rapping and stuff, he is a powerful key to helping our generation, helping our young men, I think he's the key.
Absolutely, absolutely. And listen, Weepers, let me tell you something. You're on the panel for a reason, my brother. Just as each one of these gentlemen have their own thing to say, it was just proof positive that when you had the opportunity to speak, you enlightened all of us. And that's what I think that we all should be identifying. That's why we want to hear from you. Those that are listening, please hit the chat box. We want to hear from you, because that's what happens, is that we become segregated from ourselves. We segregate ourselves based on identifying someone's position. I have a saying that says, your do is not necessarily your who. Your do is what affects change in your life, but your who is how you affect change in someone else's life. And we all have the ability to be able to do that, affect change in someone else's life. Each of these men here today are exemplifying that. Our callers that are calling in with questions exemplify that. Everybody here is an expert in their own individual existence. So speak to your truth. You know, it's Malcolm said, what you know, you teach. What you don't know, you learn. So we all have the ability for each one to teach one and each one to learn from one. All right. Okay, I'm going to see if we got a giveaway, because some people are tuned in and we said we were going to be giving out some stuff. So, Essex, what we got? We got something we want to give to somebody?
We got some giveaways.
You got some giveaways.
We got a Yeti brand.
Yeti brand.
$50 gift card and an ABB shirt going to Ronnie Cunningham.
Ronnie Cunningham, you just got something.
We got Ariat. We got a $100 gift certificate for boots or shirts going out to Doug Lewis.
Doug Lewis, $100 gift certificate from Ariat.
We got a $100 men's grooming products going to Renard Smith.
Renard Smith, you got 100 grooming products.
And finally, we have 100 women's grooming products going to Tootie Woods.
Tootie Woods, you got 100 going to the grooming products for you. Thank you so much. And we need to ask everybody, look, in sign language, this is how we applaud. So if y'all want to do this, y'all can do this if y'all want to applaud during the conversation. But listen, we want you guys to stay tuned. We're going to continue with our next segment. So just hang in there. I want to thank our sponsors. Oh, but before we go on, I think, guys, tell me if you agree. Just give me your hands up. If we have debunked the myth that violence is a curse on the Black community, and that if we take responsibility, we can dispel that myth. If you agree with that, give me a thumbs up or something like that. If you agree with it, there's a fist bump, there's a fist, there's a fist. So we debunked that myth. All right. We're going to move right into our next, situation. All right. Let's see. I just got a note handed to me. Okay. Hey, listen, I got Randy Harris on the line. Randy, come on in and talk to us. Randy, can you hear me? We're looking for Randy Harris. Well, give a call, Randy, so that call in, and then we'll put you on. And I want to talk to you because Randy Harris, also a great cowboy, has a grandson that I've seen him with this grandson. All the guys in the rodeo know him. You know what I mean? When you see Randy, he's got his grandson with him, and the connection. So we want to hear about, from the grandfather's standpoint of view, his connection to his grandson. So Randy, call us in. All right, we got any more questions from anybody that's phoned in yet? Oh, okay. They told me they said yes, they're going to hold them because we got to move on. All right, so listen, are we set up with our next video for our next segment? All right, guys, hang in there and let's pay attention to this next music video. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Taking matters in my own hands. I gotta learn how to take a stand. Nothing matters till we understand. That's the way life goes. That's the way life goes. No one loses, no one wins. No such thing as second chances. Take a stand. That's the way life goes. Take a stand. Take a stand. That's the way life goes. Time waits on no man. Gotta get something in my hands. Don't blame it on your circumstances. Make that change. That's the way life goes. Now I know that you know life goes. Leaders lead by example. Teachers keep on teaching. Mothers keep on loving. Father keep on reaching. Make that change. One nation under God, indivisible. We won't live being miserable. And by any means necessary. What's necessary for change? And break these chains. Ooh, oh, oh. Break these chains. I was born in southern Florida. Break these chains. In a little clinic. And oh, just like that old river, I've been running ever since. Oh, just like that old river.
Yes, yes. We just need to take a moment, I think, and we salute you, my brother, because, ladies and gentlemen, that song that you just heard was written and performed by one of our panelists, a gentleman that I introduced earlier, and now we have just been a repository of his spirit, of his love, of his power. The great Mr. Howard Johnson. We thank you so much, Ojo, for blessing us today with lending us the spirit of that music that I'm sure touched everybody that was in the sound of it. I would like to pose the question to you, and this is our third segment, and this segment is entitled Hope. So as I come to each of you gentlemen, I will ask you, after we've had an opportunity to talk to Howard, as you'll think about how you see hope and what your hope would be for today and moving forward. But Mr. Johnson, Howard, can you please share with us what the inspiration for that song was?
Well, it's apropos with what you just said. It's about hope. It's about change, looking within to look out. This song was inspired with a friend of mine, Brian Morgan, a while back. Lost my mom in March, and so many different things had transpired in my life up until that point. Working on this record, you know, most people know me for dance music and know me for, you know, the Bill Pickett Rodeo and some of the songs that I've written and produced for Barry White, Boyz II Men, Madonna. And it had to be something that I had to look for within myself, with all of the posturing that has been taking place with Black Lives Matter, with our young men being taken away from us, with the election and all of the different things that have been weighing so hard, not just now, but for the past 400 years. You know, so with the culmination of all of that taking place, I had to step away from the dance. I had to step away from the so fine, blow your mind, and all of the things that we have fun about, to go about the things that motivate us from a dark, dark place. And I had to give something to lift my spirit and those that were around me, those that are in my village, and all of you guys are in my village. And I had to speak on it in a different way than being in the club and bumping off of So Fine, Keeping Love New, and all of that, because we can all, have a good time, but we need to have introspective time. And that's what brought, Make a Change on. And, it says in the song, there's no excuse. Because when you have us, when we have each other, we got everything. Yes, sir. So that's what brought that song on. That's what brought the reflective images in my mind melodically. Just started a record company with some wonderful partners that I have called Higher Ground 44. That, this partnership is bringing some music that's going to make a change.
Yes, indeed. Well, we thank you. I'm just going to do something off the cuff here. I'm going to go, before I have you guys talk about your own individual points of hope, I'm just interested. I'm going to go right down the line. Let's start with Jim. And guys, kind of keep it tight if you can. But Jim, and each of you guys, image-wise, as you listen to that and watch those images, what do you mind?
Wow, it's that we've come a long way. I think that having these kind of discussions, having such a diverse age range and cultural differences, but at the end of the day, we're Black men, young and old, who want to have a common goal, and that is to see us reach our full potential. And I'm so encouraged by these young brothers like Randy with the Compton Cowboys, and Denard and Brian, and what Weavis is doing, that we, quote unquote, more mature brothers who've been out there and been there and done that, can leave a legacy for these brothers, these young brothers, to pick up and take it and move it forward. I'm really encouraged, in spite of what we see around us, the changing political climate, the cultural climate. We got to recognize that there are young brothers out there who are doing a lot of good work that don't get mentioned, and that we need to recognize. And this is part of the discussion, and they're the participants here right now. We need to diffuse and disseminate that information and let folks know that there are some young brothers out here who don't want to see this chain of violence continue, who want to see better for their families and their children and the legacy they leave on for their next generation. So I'm encouraged by what's happening here today. I thank Margaret and everybody for doing it, and for these brothers, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Reginald T. Dorsey, what went through your mind as you listened to Howard Johnson bless us?
Who you asking, me?
Reginald.
Yeah, so that we have a strong legacy to draw from. As I said earlier, very few cultures could have done what we've done in such a short period of time, and to have achieved the levels of success that we have, but there's still some issues that we need to deal with. And as an African-American man, it makes me very proud. And, even though there's a lot more work to be done, I feel like as long as we keep putting in the work, then, sky's the limit. And for all of us on this panel that are Cowboys, we work with what we know, which is horses, which is livestock. And for those of us, who've been raised around horses and who've been able to pass that on to other younger Cowboys and other generations, that will mature them, it'll teach them discipline, and it'll teach them self-respect and how to respect everybody else around them based on what we give through what we teach with horses.
Absolutely. Glenn Turman, Mr. Glenn Turman, as you listen to that song by Howard Johnson and watch those images, please describe emotionally what you felt.
First, I want to say that I'm so hopeful and have been given a sense of a hope reboot because of one simple thing, that for those of you who did, and it seems like a lot of us did, and many probably for the first time, we acted like Americans as opposed to Black people.
Yes.
And we went out and voted. We took part in a system that we have fought and died, marched for, to be a part of that system. And we used it as it was meant to be used. That the way Americans use it. And it worked. Now there are, all the hubbub about this and the hubbub about that, but that's as it always is. But we as a people, young and old, stopped for the first time saying, oh, it's not going to matter. It's going to count. I ain't got time for that. My vote don't mean nothing. They don't. We're already, by doing that, saying that we ain't nothing. And we as a people have to get over that thought that we don't count, that we ain't nothing. That we just this or we just that. We're everything. Everything here came from us. So if we don't use what we have, then it's our fault. And this time, the proof is in the pudding. We did it in numbers that counted and changed a system, changed a condition that we found ourselves in by acting like Americans. We didn't act like a hood. We didn't act like we were from the this side, the south side, or the north side, or the this side. We acted like Americans. That meant all of us is ours. And what we do affects all of it. So, yeah, I'm hopeful for that. And that's what that song says.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oba.
Thank you.
Randy Harris, Oba.
Okay.
Oba, Randy Harris.
Hold on a second. Randy, you there? Randy,
yes, I
you're
am.
having a little trouble with your Wi-Fi. Hold on a second.
I can
Randy.
hear you very well. Can you hear me? Okay.
And as you listen to the gentleman that have spoken before you, can you share with us emotionally what you're feeling? Brian, sir. I think you're muted, Brian.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There we are.
Okay. I had several emotions while watching it. One was, I was born in the 60s. So I was on the tail end of the civil rights movement when the water hoses and the dogs and all that kind of stuff. And you talk about hope. I look at at my life and things I've been through, I'm probably not even supposed to be here, or be where I'm at. My dad was a drug dealer. He was associated with a Mexican drug cartel, which is really unheard of for a black man. My parents had me when they were teenagers, and I was, sent to live with a great aunt, and all this stuff that I've had to go through, and not to say this any more than anybody else, but I'm supposed to be a statistic, and not a college graduate and a business owner, and having worked for state agencies and all this other stuff that you don't associate with people that came from my humble beginnings. But I had family, I had neighbors, I had friends, I had people that met me and saw more in me sometimes than I saw in myself. They believed that I could be better than my circumstances. They insisted that I act and think better than I had the day before. Even when I didn't want to, when I wanted to be like everybody else and just be kind of common. I thought back to, my grandfather, who was a well-spoken man. He was a veteran. He worked here at the Tinker Air Force Base as a civil servant. Always wore suits. I remember him taking me to Rothschild's in downtown Oklahoma City, and I was just a little bitty boy. Every Easter, we buy a new suit and new shoes. And he insisted that, you speak well, you dress well, you present yourself well, so that you will be perceived well. And even growing up, I caught flack from, friends, well, you talk white or you talk proper, blah, 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 blah. But that's what I knew. And that came from a man who was born in the 1920s, who had seen all these atrocities and things that I am glad I've never had to see or deal with. But even then, he had hope. He had hope that, he could go to the service and get out and start a family and buy a new house and have a good job and raise kids who were going to be smart and all this American dream stuff. So when I think about hope, I think that if I can come from where I did and be where I'm at now, it's possible for anybody. And my job is to make sure that somebody else that looks like me gets that same opportunity. So I have to pass on the experiences and the knowledge that I've gained, that I got from somebody else,
Yes.
and pay that all forward.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Weefus, my brother, weigh in, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
By watching that clip, man, it just, I don't know, a lot of things run through my mind. But I do know we need to use, I don't know, like you say Rosa Parks, you say Martin Luther King. Did these people know the magnitude of change they were making at the time? They probably didn't. They just knew what they probably was thinking what they could do for what they had in front of them. So that message just tells me and any other man of color, woman of color, do what you can do within your own power, and you will never know the magnitude that it would have on somebody. Mr. Pickens, man, first time I saw him when I went, I'm a country boy. I'm deep country, never been nowhere till I got out in when I was 20, 21 and started moving around. I didn't know anybody of color. And when I went to California and I saw Jim Pickens, man, I thought I was Glenn Turman and Reginald Doyce. Man, I mean, I was like thought I was a movie star at the time. Good God, you know, but I joined the Bill Pickett when I was in, 2004. I joined Bill Pickett and started moving around and just saw when we went to the rodeos, you know, and saw the twinkle in these little kids' eyes, you know, when they saw Cowboys and saw what they were doing, you know, and right then I knew that Bill Pickett was changing people's lives, you know, because of just having rodeos, man. It's simple, you know. We all got a role to play in this life, and if we just live up to our role, no, you don't even know who you're touching and who your role model is, you know. So if social media, like I was saying about Randy, man, if you got access to social media and use it, be a stronghold in that area. Mr. Jim Pickens, man, you've been on television, and I said you in my living room, you don't even know it, man. So use it when you can, you know. That's all I'm saying. If just do what you can do and don't sit back like a knot on the log and just hope for things to change. Be a change.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Denard, sir, weigh in, please, brother.
Wow, man, it's so many emotions going through my when I hear that. It's crazy how my mind works, but as I was listening to that, at the end they started playing, they started showing like those little pictures.
Yes.
And Abba, the first picture popped in my mind was you, because in the background of where you at right now, it's a I guess a little sign that says love.
Yes.
And in my mind at that moment, you know, that's what I was seeing being portrayed. And I believe personally, you know, I'm gonna kind of go back to Jim. I didn't even know how much of an effect I had or the things I was doing that was having an effect on me. The other day, as I voted, and the young lady came on and she gave her speech, the vice president. And as the tears began to well up in my eyes, I didn't know how much of an impact I played in that until that day when I seen her face. Oh man, y'all, excuse me. But I'm sorry, fellas. As an African American, to have a young girl, to have a daughter, to be able to see something of that magnitude and know I played a part is huge. And as a man, we tend sometimes not to feel that our voice is heard, but to know that we was heard and to have that effect, man, it was huge. So it was so much going on when I seen that, and I just thought that was huge, and I appreciate that. So yeah, that's my outlook on that one.
Yes, sir, my brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey, Denard, Cowboys cry too.
Hey, Mr. Savvy. Mr. Savvy, please.
Yo, man, Howard, beautiful work, man. I was just, I mean, as a musician myself, my hat tips to you, beautiful. I was just struck by the imagery in the song, man. It's just so hopeful, so beautiful. I think that's the kind of healing power that music has, and that's where I stand myself in my community is like using that power and that platform of music to inspire change. And I think, like I said earlier, you know, in my hood, you know, Drake got more say so than TD Jakes. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a metaphor that like the music is where a lot of these young people is looking to get their inspirational messaging from. And it just the reality of it where we are now is like in this new generation, rap music runs the day. I mean, it's just because we are the culture, we are the flavor, we bring the vibes, we bring the dough, we bring the cool factor. So that music is going to be so powerful and inspiring change. And so that's why I'm using my platform as a musician to inspire. And I look up to you, man. You don't even know I grew up that Bill Pickett Rodeo song, man. That song, man, it's just like it is a part of me. As I sit here in front of you with my cowboy hat on, that song plays in my brain. You know what I'm saying? Every time I look in the mirror, bro, every time I do anything, that music, it matters to me, bro. And it gets me really emotional. So just watching that new one, man, it's just, I'm so impressed by you and applaud the work that you're doing amongst the people in the community. And it just made me think about being so proud to be connected to a legacy of Black people, of Black Cowboys, of men, Black men, and role models, and influential figures in this world. So it means a lot to me, man. And I really do, you know, beyond this, right, you know, beyond this panel or whatever, I definitely want to work with you, because this music, man, it's gonna change these kids' life, bro. And I view myself as one of them ones that's gonna be standing up there, you know what I'm saying, up there, you know, as a knight in shining armor, like, you know, speaking this message through my raps, getting these kids in our whole community to change our mindset and change our feelings about each other and change our vibe. So you just re-inspired me all over again. I'm actually going to the studio after this, and I'm gonna be thinking about you, man. So I appreciate you for real, man. Real talk, big homie.
Thank you so much. Well, you know, I had asked, said we were going to talk about hope, but in terms of a specific thing, but each of you have covered it in your statements. Listen, I want to take this time to, before I wrap us up here, we have one more giveaway, but I want to give a shout out to Sonia Young Adam, founder of Anti-Violence Ventures, for expanding the opportunities for Black men to speak for ourselves in our own voices about this issue that impacts our lives, the lives of families, and the lives of our community. You know, there's been something that has been a reoccurring theme that I've heard throughout this afternoon, and I'd like to speak to it if I can. Oh wait, I have some more thank yous I have to do before I make my own comments. As it says, I want to thank the sponsors. Gloria will bring up the slides, and you can see them. Recognize them and support those sponsors, because they're who make this kind of programming possible. I want to thank the behind the scenes team, Kaimi and Essex Porter, for KRPR Media, Gloria, Collages, and Margot Wade-LaDrew, who have worked so hard to make this event happen. I want to thank the guys who really have made this a very, very special, special day. I asked the guys to stay on so that we can chat after. But what I wanted to say is that what was a reoccurring theme that I identified today, Howard spoke to it, each of you spoke to it in your own way. It was about looking for the answers. You know, someone drops their keys in the house and they're looking around and it's a little dark, so they can't really see it. Then they go outside and they're looking around, and one of us come along and we say, well, what happened? What'd you lose? So, well, I dropped my keys. And we're starting to look around and help that person. And then he said, well, when was the last time you saw them? Where were you? And the person says, I was in the house. He said, then why are we looking outside? Now, the point that I'm making is that that's what tends to happen. We keep looking for the answers outside when the answers are always inside. This makes you the powerful human being that you are. You have the ability, as Howard has given it to us in song, to affect change. You have the ability, as each one of our panelists have weighed in and talked about how they have made a change. But we also know that your do, as I said earlier, is not your who. Your do is what affects change in your life, but your who is how you affect change in someone else's life. So you want to see the change? Be the change. These men have spoken, and it's resounded. We thank you for calling in. We have one more giveaway before we get out. But before we give that last giveaway away, I want to personally thank the team for affording me to be the moderator today. I've been blessed by each and every one of you, those that have called in, those that have weighed in, and for those that have shown up, and for the long existing life that you have presented us with through the evolution of your lives. We all have the ability to be great, and we don't wait. We don't have to wait for anybody's permission to be great. You can start it right now. So please continue to support this. This is a program that we're planning on doing for other things. We have some future programs that we're going to come up. We're going to ask you to support us. We got a whole idea of bringing about a group of barbers together and putting us in barber chairs, because you know, brothers, how we get into the barber shop and everything is talked about. So we've got several. We've got one we're thinking about with athletes, all the different aspects and walks of our community. Today, we had Black Cowboys, men speaking from the standpoint of being stand-up men. So now, that's my piece. We got a final giveaway.
We got a final giveaway. It's a Yeti cooler valued at $250 going to Mr. Troy Walker.
Troy Walker is our final presenter, gift awardee. And how much is it?
It's $250 Yeti cooler.
$250 with the Yeti cooler. All right. So again, God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. Look for us and tell others about what we're doing. And like I said, and everybody here has said, and Howard has said it the best in song. If you want to see a change, be the change. God bless and take care.